At dinner, my family called me a disappointment and said, "You're never going to become anything." I didn't argue. I just stayed quiet and left. What they didn't know was that earlier that morning, I had signed a $3 million book deal. 2 months later, one of my dad's friends handed him a copy of The Local. Alright, so picture this. Can you even imagine sitting at a fancy family dinner, getting absolutely torn apart by your own parents and siblings about being a failure, while secretly, your phone is buzzing in your purse with congratulatory messages about a $3 million book deal? Because that, my friends, was my reality. That night was a brutal reminder of just how invisible I felt, right before everything changed forever. I was at the Sterling House, this upscale place where my family always celebrated their big wins. My sister Jennifer's latest promotion, my brother Marcus's engagement, never anything of mine. Dad was carving into his prime rib, not even looking at me, and he just launched into it, the familiar lecture. "Patricia, you're 28 years old," he grumbled. "When are you going to stop playing around with this writing hobby and get a real job?" My mom, predictably, nodded along, dabbing her lips with a napkin. "Your sister's already made partner. Even your younger brother is pulling in 6 figures." The weight of their disappointment just settled over me like a suffocating blanket. I picked at my mashed potatoes, that familiar pit forming in my stomach. "I'm doing fine," I mumbled, barely audible. My father finally looked up, his eyes sharp, dissecting me. "Fine? You're waitressing at a coffee shop and living in a studio in the worst part of town. That's not fine, Patricia. That's failure." Jennifer, ever the supportive sister, clinked her wine glass. "Dad's right. I even tried to get you an admin job at my firm, but you turned it down. Do you know how embarrassing that was for me?" I felt a flash of anger. I didn't want to work in a law office. "I'm a writer." Marcus actually laughed. Like, a full-on scoff right there at the table. "A writer, Patricia? You've been on this same book for 3 years. At some point, you have to accept it's not going to happen." My mom reached over and patted my hand, probably thinking it was comforting. "Honey, we're just worried. You're getting older, and you have nothing to show for all these years. No career, no husband, no stability. We just want you to be realistic about your limitations." The waiter arrived with dessert menus, and I had to escape. I excused myself and practically ran to the bathroom. Staring at my reflection, I saw exactly what they saw: someone small, someone forgettable, someone who just didn't measure up. My phone buzzed again, a message from Rachel, my literary agent. "Have you told your family yet?" "This is huge." No. No, I hadn't told them. How could I, when just 12 hours earlier, I'd been in a glass conference room in Manhattan, signing a 3-book deal with Blackwood Publishing for $3 million. The advance check was already being processed. My debut novel, The Invisible Daughter, was set to hit shelves in 8 months with a massive marketing campaign. Rachel had spent the entire morning outlining the book tour, the publicity events, the foreign rights deals already lining up. But sitting there, surrounded by their casual cruelty disguised as concern, I felt that old, familiar instinct to just shrink. To apologize for existing, for taking up space. My mom had been dismissing my dreams since I was a kid. My dad had never read a single one of my short stories, not even the one that won a national competition when I was 16. Jennifer once told her friends I was basically unemployed. And Marcus? He introduced me to his colleagues as my sister who waitresses. I went back to the table, and my father, completely uninterrupted, continued. "So, I spoke with Gerald Morrison at the club. He said his company is hiring for data entry. The pay isn't great, but it's a start." I felt my jaw clench. "I don't want to do data entry." Jennifer piped up again, "You don't want to do anything, Patricia. That's your problem. You think you're too good for real work." "I work 40 hours a week," I wanted to scream. "That's not a career," my mom said softly. "That's just existing. We want More for you than just existing. My father signaled for the check, the final nail in the coffin. We're not going to support this delusion anymore. Patricia, you're almost 30. It's time to grow up and accept reality. You're never going to be a successful writer. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you can start building an actual life. The words hung in the air, heavy, suffocating. You're never going to be a successful writer. I stood up, my chair scraping harshly across the floor. Thank you for dinner. Where are you going? My mom asked, bewildered. We haven't had coffee yet. I have to work early tomorrow. My father just shook his head in disgust. Always running away when things get difficult. That's exactly why you'll never amount to anything, Patricia. You don't have the strength to face hard truths. I grabbed my purse and walked out. I didn't look back. The October air was crisp, and I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, letting the cold seep into me. My hands were shaking, but not from the chill. The subway ride home was quiet. I watched an older woman across from me, engrossed in a paperback. I wondered if she knew that someone had poured their heart into those pages, stayed up late, sacrificed, doubted, and persevered to create that story. And I wondered if that writer's family had told them they were wasting their time. My studio apartment was tiny, but it was mine. Bookshelves I built myself lined the walls, filled with novels that had saved me. My desk, by the window, was covered in notebooks, manuscript pages. This was where I wrote The Invisible Daughter, working after coffee shop shifts, typing until my fingers cramped, revising until the words finally said what I needed them to say. The book was about a woman whose family never truly saw her, who spent her life chasing their approval until she realized she didn't need it. It was fiction, but it was also the truest thing I'd ever written. I made myself tea, looked out at the city lights. Rachel's message popped up, when are you going to tell them? I typed back, not yet. Let them think what they want for a little while longer. The weeks that followed were surreal. I went to the coffee shop, perfected latte art, all while knowing my life was about to explode. I met my editor at Blackwood, Patricia Chen, a brilliant woman who understood my book so deeply it made me want to cry with relief. We worked on final edits, cover designs, marketing strategies. Your story is going to resonate with so many people, she told me. Women who've been underestimated, dismissed, told they're not enough. This book is for all of them. I did a photo shoot for my author portrait, the one that would be on the back cover. The photographer, Diane, kept telling me, that's it. You look powerful. You look like someone who knows her worth. I didn't feel powerful. I felt terrified. The advance money hit my account, and I stared at the numbers for 10 minutes, convinced it was a mistake. But it was real. All of it. Real. My family didn't call after that dinner. They never did when they deemed me sufficiently chastised. I was supposed to come crawling back, apologizing. Instead, I was working with a marketing team, discussing a 15-city book tour. I gave my notice at the coffee shop. My manager, Tom, the first person outside publishing I told, pulled me into a hug. I knew you'd make it, he said. You've got something special. I found a new apartment, a one-bedroom with a real office. I bought a comfy chair, a new laptop. I adopted a cat, Hemingway, who now curled up on my desk as I worked on the second book. The Invisible Daughter was set for June 15th. Advanced copies went out to reviewers, and the early reviews were beyond my wildest dreams, a stunning debut. Patricia Mitchell writes with devastating honesty. A must-read for anyone who's ever felt like they weren't enough. Rachel called me daily. Foreign rights sold in 12 countries. Book clubs were ordering. Film rights. My life was transforming, moment by dizzying moment. I thought about calling my family, drafted texts, deleted them. They'd made their opinion clear. They'd looked across that table and told me I'd never amount to anything. They'd dismissed my dreams with the casual cruelty of people who never believed in me. So I waited. In May, 1 month before publication, my publisher organized a launch event at a prestigious Manhattan bookstore. Invitees, reviewers, agents, editors, media. My first public appearance as an author. Terrified, exhilarated. The display copies of The Invisible Daughter arrived. I almost couldn't open the box. When I finally pulled one out, running my fingers over the embossed title, I cried. Not sad tears, but tears of pure vindication, relief, and joy. The book was beautiful. My name, Patricia Mitchell, printed there in elegant letters. My author bio framed my years in service as determination, not failure. I sent a photo to Rachel. It's real. She replied, "You did this. I'm so proud." The launch was on a Friday evening. I bought a new dress, got my hair done. I practiced my reading until the words flowed. Rachel would introduce me, I'd read, then a Q&A. And still, I hadn't told my family. The invitations went to industry folks, not them. They had no idea their disappointing daughter was about to step into an entirely new life. 2 weeks before the launch, my father's friend, Howard, stopped by their house. Howard, a real estate agent, one of those guys who always had a story. My mom told me later. Howard had been downtown, killing time in a bookstore, and saw a poster. Debut novelist Patricia Mitchell reads from her book, The Invisible Daughter. My author photo, the confident, accomplished one, was right there. He took a picture and drove straight to my parents. "Robert," he said when my dad opened the door. "Is your daughter Patricia a writer?" My dad's expression went cold. "She thinks she is." "Why?" Howard showed him the photo. "Because she's got a book coming out, and the bookstore's making a pretty big deal about it." My dad took the phone, staring. My mom came into the hallway, then Jennifer, visiting with her husband. "This has to be a mistake," my mom said, looking at the photo. "Patricia would have told us." Howard shrugged. "Definitely her picture. Same Patricia, right? Your youngest daughter." Marcus arrived, summoned by a frantic group text. The four of them stood in the living room, passing Howard's phone, staring at the poster. "How is this possible?" Jennifer asked. "She was waitressing." Marcus, dismissive as ever, "She must have self-published. Anyone can do that. It doesn't mean anything." But my dad was already on his computer, pulling up the bookstore's website. He found the event listing, clicked through to the publisher's site. There it was. My book. My name. Published by Blackwood Publishing. "Blackwood is a major publisher," my dad said slowly, almost a whisper. "This isn't self-published." My mom sat on the couch, hand over her mouth. "She didn't tell us." "Why would she?" Jennifer said, her voice bitter. "After the way we talked to her at dinner?" "We were trying to help her," my dad snapped. "Get her to face reality." Marcus muttered, "Apparently, she did. This reality just wasn't what we expected." Howard, clearly uncomfortable, excused himself. After he left, my parents, Jennifer, and Marcus sat in silence, processing. My father reached for his phone first. Called me. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Texted, "Patricia, we need to talk. It's important." I saw the message. I was in a meeting with Patricia Chen and the marketing team. My phone buzzed repeatedly, but I silenced it. Focused on the work. That evening, I listened to my father's strained, formal voicemail. "Patricia, Howard showed us a poster about your book. We'd like to know why you didn't tell us. Please call us back." I deleted it. Poured myself a glass of wine. Hemingway curled onto my lap. The city lights twinkled, full of possibilities I was only beginning to explore. The next morning, my mom called. Voicemail. Jennifer. Voicemail. Marcus. I turned off my phone. Went to my final walkthrough at the bookstore. Michelle, the coordinator, was enthusiastic. They'd ordered 300 copies, half were already pre-ordered. "We're expecting a huge turnout," she beamed. I practiced at the podium, imagining a room full of people who believed in my story, who didn't think I was a disappointment. My family kept trying to reach me. The voicemails evolved from confused, to frustrated, to almost apologetic. "My mom, Patricia, sweetheart, we just want to understand. Why didn't you tell us? We're your family. We love you." But love wasn't the same as belief. Love wasn't the same as support. They'd loved me, I guess, but they'd never seen me as anything more than a failure who needed fixing. Jennifer sent a long text. "I know things were tense at dinner, but we're happy for you. We just don't understand why you kept this from us. Dad is really upset he found out from Howard instead of you." I almost replied. Almost. But then I remembered her saying, "Do you know how embarrassing that was for me?" Marcus laughing. My father's judgment. 3 days before the launch, my publisher sent out a press release. A local news website picked it up, running a feature. Local woman's debut novel explores family dynamics and self-worth. It mentioned the 3-book deal, quotes from Patricia Chen. Patricia Mitchell's voice is authentic and powerful. We're thrilled to be publishing her work. The article spread like wildfire. My old manager Tom shared it. "Told you she was special." My parents saw it. My father's friend Jerry called. My mom's book club buzzed. Jennifer's colleagues. Marcus's fiancé, bewildered, asked why he'd never mentioned his sister was a published author. The morning of the launch, dozens of messages from my family. My father emailed asking if they could attend. My mother left a voicemail to support me. Jennifer texted for details. I read them all over coffee, Hemingway purring. The event was public, so technically they could come. But showing up uninvited after months of silence? That would be a choice. I finally responded to my mother's voicemail with a simple text. "The launch is at 7 p.m. at Riverside Books on Main Street. It's open to the public. No, I'd love for you to be there. No, I hope you can make it. Just the facts." The same neutral tone they'd used when lecturing me about data entry. That afternoon, I met Rachel. She'd flown in from Boston. "How are you feeling?" she asked, her eyes gentle. Terrified, excited, vindicated. She smiled. "Vindicated is good. You've earned that." "They know now," I told her. "Are they coming?" "Maybe." I told them they could. Rachel squeezed my hand. "Whatever happens, remember, you did this. You wrote a beautiful book. You persevered through rejection, doubt, and people who didn't believe. This is your moment. Don't let anyone take it from you." By 6:30, I was in the bookstore bathroom, touching up my makeup, trying to breathe. Michelle gave me a thumbs up. I could hear the murmur of people arriving, filling the seats. At 6:45, I peeked out. The bookstore was packed. Every seat taken, people standing along the walls. I saw faces from my writing workshop, neighborhood friends, regulars from the coffee shop. Tom was in the 3rd row, beaming. And then, in the back, standing near the psychology section because there were no seats left, were my parents, Jennifer, Marcus, and his fiancée. They'd come. My mom clutched her purse. My dad stood stiffly, uncomfortable but present. Jennifer kept glancing at the crowd, perhaps surprised by the turnout. Marcus had his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. Michelle gave me the 5-minute warning. My book, stacked on the signing table, gleamed. Rachel stood ready. At 7 o'clock sharp, Michelle introduced Rachel, who gave this beautiful introduction about my work, my dedication, the power of the invisible daughter. "Patricia Mitchell is the kind of writer we need more of," she said. "Someone who tells uncomfortable truths with compassion. Please welcome Patricia Mitchell." The applause was overwhelming. I walked to the podium on shaking legs, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at all those faces. People who'd come to hear my story. People who saw value in my words. People who didn't think I was a disappointment. I opened my book to the first chapter and began to read. My voice was steady, stronger than I expected. I'd chosen the chapter about the protagonist's family, about growing up feeling invisible, about the moment she realized she'd been seeking validation from people incapable of giving it. The room was silent. People leaned forward. Some nodded. A woman in the front row wiped her eyes. When I finished, the applause erupted again. Then the Q&A hand shot up. A young woman asked about my process. A book club member, about themes of family dynamics. A man asked if it was autobiographical. All fiction is autobiographical in some way, I said carefully. I wrote about emotions and experiences that felt true to me, even if the specific events are invented. Every writer pulls from their own life, their own understanding of how people hurt and heal. More questions. About the ending. My influences. A woman asked about a sequel. I explained the 3-book deal, that the next wouldn't be direct sequels, but would explore similar themes. My family, still in the back, listened. My mother's eyes never left me. My father's stern expression had softened into something unreadable. Jennifer looked proud, but also sad. Marcus seemed genuinely impressed. After the Q&A, I moved to the signing table. The line stretched through the bookstore, out the door. People came forward with copies of my book, sharing their own stories, thanking me for writing something that resonated. Tom was in line with 3 copies. "You are amazing," he said when it was his turn. "I'm so glad you didn't give up." I smiled. "Thank you for believing in me, Tom, when I was just your waitress who was always tired." He grinned. "You were never just anything, Patricia." The line lasted over an hour. My hand cramped, but I didn't care. Each signature felt like a small victory, a tiny piece of proof that my father had been wrong. Finally, as most of the crowd dispersed, my family approached. They'd waited. Now they stood before me, uncertain. My mother spoke first. "Patricia, honey, that was beautiful. Your reading was beautiful." "Thank you." "We had no idea," Jennifer said, her voice small. "About any of this. The book deal, the publication, everything." I set down my signing pen and looked at them directly. "I signed the contract the morning of that dinner. The one where you all told me I'd never amount to anything." My father flinched. Actually flinched. "Patricia, we didn't mean." "Yes, you did," I interrupted. My voice was steady, firm. "You meant every word. You thought I was a failure. You were embarrassed by me. You wanted me to give up on writing and accept some data entry position because you couldn't imagine a world where I actually succeeded. We were worried about you," my mother said, her voice thin. "No. You were disappointed in me. There's a difference. You looked at my life and saw someone who wasn't measuring up to your expectations. You never asked about my writing. You never read anything I'd written. You never once considered that maybe I knew what I was doing. That maybe I was working towards something you couldn't see." Marcus cleared his throat. "You're right. We should have been more supportive." "Should have been," I repeated, shaking my head. "For years, you all made me feel like I was less than, like my dreams were childish, my goals unrealistic. And when I finally achieved something incredible, you only found out because Dad's friend saw a poster in a bookstore window. Why didn't you tell us?" Jennifer asked, almost pleading. "When you signed the contract, why didn't you tell us at that dinner?" "Because you'd already decided who I was," I said, the words coming out with a quiet power I hadn't known I possessed. "You'd already written me off as a disappointing daughter who would never succeed. I wasn't going to give you the satisfaction of doubting me even more, of dismissing this the way you dismissed everything else." My father stepped forward. In his eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before, regret, maybe even shame. "Patricia, I'm sorry. We're all sorry. You're right about everything. We failed you as a family. We should have supported you. Should have believed in you. We were wrong. The apology hung in the air. Part of me, that old, broken part, wanted to accept it immediately, to fall back into the familiar family dynamic. But another part of me, the part that had written The Invisible Daughter, the part that had survived their dismissal and succeeded anyway, knew some things couldn't be fixed with simple apologies. I appreciate that, I said quietly. But apologies don't erase what happened. They don't give me back all those years of feeling like I wasn't good enough. They don't undo the damage of being told I'd never succeed by the people who were supposed to believe in me most. What can we do? My mother asked, tears in her eyes. How can we make this right? I looked at each of them. My father, so certain. My mother, wanting me to be someone I wasn't. Jennifer, embarrassed. Marcus, who'd laughed. You can read my book, I said finally. Really read it. And maybe if you do, you'll understand why I couldn't tell you about any of this. Why I needed to do this on my own, without your approval or validation. We will, Jennifer promised, immediately grabbing a copy. I already bought one. I'm reading it this weekend. My father, his voice cracking, added, We're proud of you. I know we have no right to be, after everything we said, but we are. You proved us all wrong, and I'm glad you did. I nodded slowly. I didn't do this to prove you wrong. I did this because I had a story to tell. Because I had to write it. Your opinion, good or bad, didn't change what I needed to do. Can we start over? My mother asked, hope in her voice. Can we try to have a better relationship? One where we actually see you. Where we support who you are instead of trying to make you into someone else. Maybe, I said honestly. But it's going to take time. You can't just show up at my book launch and expect everything to be okay. You hurt me deeply for a long time. That doesn't heal overnight. Marcus said, We understand. We'll give you space, but please know that we're here whenever you're ready. And we really are proud, Patricia. This is incredible. They bought copies of my book, and I signed them, to Mom and Dad, to Jennifer, to Marcus. No additional messages, no declarations of love or forgiveness. Just their names and my signature. After they left, Rachel put her arm around me. How are you feeling? Honestly? I don't know. They apologized. But it feels, too little, too late. You don't have to forgive them just because they showed up, Rachel said gently. You get to decide what kind of relationship you want. I know, it's just. I spent so many years wanting their approval, and now that my book is successful, now that I've proven myself, suddenly they're proud. It feels conditional. It probably is conditional, at least partly, she said. But that says more about them than it does about you. You did this, Patricia. You wrote a brilliant book. You persevered through rejection and self-doubt and a family who didn't believe in you. That's entirely your achievement, no matter what they think or feel about it. I helped the bookstore staff clean up. Michelle profusely thanked me. It was one of their most successful events in years. All 300 copies sold out. Walking home, the city felt lighter. Like I'd shed something heavy. My phone buzzed with congratulations. My family's apology sat in my chest like a stone. I wanted to forgive them. Part of me still craved their approval. But I knew forgiveness had to come on my terms, in my time, if it came at all. The next morning, The Invisible Daughter hit #1 on several bestseller lists. My publisher was already talking about a second printing. Interview requests flooded in. My life was truly changing. My mother called, and this time I answered. Patricia, I just finished your book. That was fast. I couldn't put it down. Her voice was thick with emotion. Is that how you felt growing up? Is that how we made you feel? I sat on my couch, Hemingway jumping onto my lap. Yes. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. We thought we were helping. Guiding you toward a stable life. We never realized we were making you feel invisible. That's the thing about being invisible, I said quietly. The people making you disappear rarely realize they're doing it. My mother was crying now. I failed you as a parent. I see that now. Reading your book, seeing myself through your character's eyes. I understand what we did, and I'm so sorry. I know you thought you were doing the right thing, I admitted, but your version of the right thing didn't leave any room for who I actually was. You wanted me to be Jennifer or Marcus, and I was never going to be them. You're right. Absolutely right. Can I ask you something? Can we try again? Not go back to how things were, but start fresh? Build something new where we actually see you. Where we support who you are instead of trying to make you into someone else. I looked out my window. I don't know, Mom. I want to say yes, but I'm not sure I trust that this won't just go back to the way it was before. You're proud of me now because I'm successful in a way you understand. But what happens if my next book doesn't do as well? What happens if I make choices you don't agree with? Will you go back to treating me like a disappointment? No, she said firmly. I promise you, Patricia, that won't happen. I've learned my lesson. We all have. Please give us a chance to prove that we can be the family you deserved all along. I need time, I told her. I need to figure out who I am without constantly trying to earn your approval. This book launch, this success, it can't be about finally measuring up to your standards. It has to be about me achieving something I worked hard for, something that matters to me. I understand, she said. Take all the time you need. We'll be here when you're ready. After I hung up, I sat in silence. The success of my book felt incredibly vindicating, but also incredibly complicated. I'd wanted to prove my family wrong, and I had. But in doing so, I'd also realized their opinion, good or bad, didn't define my worth. I'd written a book that resonated because it was true to my experience, not because I was trying to impress anyone. Over the following weeks, my book climbed higher. Reviews were overwhelmingly positive. Readers reached out, sharing their own stories of feeling invisible. It sparked conversations about parental expectations. A production company made an offer for film rights. Foreign editions appeared. Book clubs discussed it everywhere. I did interviews, always careful to speak honestly without completely demonizing my family. They meant well, I said in one interview. But good intentions don't always lead to healthy relationships. Sometimes the people who love us most can hurt us deeply, not out of malice, but out of their own limited vision of what our lives should look like. My family read that interview. My father texted, "You're more generous than we deserve." Slowly, cautiously, we began rebuilding. Not the old relationship, but something new and more honest. They asked about my writing process and actually listened. They attended a reading in their city, in the front row this time. They introduced me to friends as our daughter, the best-selling author. And while a part of me cringed at their sudden pride in something they'd once dismissed, I also saw their genuine effort to change. Jennifer and I met for coffee. "I'm sorry I was such a snob," she said. "I think I was jealous, actually. You were brave enough to pursue what you really wanted, and I just did what was expected of me. Reading your book made me think about all the ways I try to be perfect according to their standards instead of figuring out what I wanted." Marcus called. He told me reading my book made him reconsider how he talked to his own daughter about her interests. "She wants to be a dancer," he said. "And I was about to give her the same speech Dad gave you about practical careers. But after reading your book, I realized I was about to become the exact parent I read about on those pages. So instead, I signed her up for dance classes and told her I'd support whatever path she chooses." These small moments of growth and understanding began to ease the hurt, though it never completely disappeared. Some wounds leave scars, and that's okay. The scars reminded me of how far I'd come, of what I'd survived. My second book, then my third, solidified my place as an author. My family came to every launch, every reading, every award ceremony. They'd learned to be supportive, to be present, to believe in me. It wasn't perfect. Old patterns surfaced. Old hurts sometimes stung. But it was better. It was honest. It was real. 5 years after that first book launch, I spoke at a writers' conference. A young woman approached me, clutching a dog-eared copy of The Invisible Daughter. "Your book saved me," she whispered. "My family was telling me the same things yours told you. But reading your story gave me the courage to keep going. I just sold my first novel." I hugged her, tears pricking my eyes. "That's incredible. Congratulations." "Did you ever forgive your family?" she asked. "For not believing in you?" I considered her question carefully. "I forgave them for being human, for making mistakes, for having limited vision. But I also learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. And it doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was. We have a different relationship now, one built on honesty rather than unmet expectations. It's better this way." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Thank you for writing that book. For telling the truth about how it feels to be dismissed by the people who should support you most. It made me feel less alone." "That's why I wrote it," I said. "To tell people like us that we're not alone. That our dreams matter. That we don't need permission from anyone to pursue what sets our souls on fire." That night, lying in bed, Hemingway purring beside me, I thought about that dinner at the Sterling House years ago. My father's words echoed, "You'll never amount to anything, Patricia. You don't have the strength to face hard truths." He'd been wrong about so many things. But he'd been right about one. I had faced hard truths. The truth that my family's love was conditional. The truth that I'd spent years seeking approval from people incapable of giving it. The truth that I had to choose myself, my dreams, my voice, even if it meant standing alone. And in facing those truths, I'd found my strength. Not the kind of strength that comes from pleasing others, but the kind that comes from knowing your worth, regardless of external validation. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Just finished reading your new manuscript. It's your best work yet. I'm so proud of the writer you've become, but more than that, I'm proud of the woman you've always been. Love you." I smiled, typing back a simple, "Love you, too." It wasn't the relationship I dreamed of as a child, desperate for my parents' approval. But it was real. It was honest. And it was enough. Because I'd learned that the most important approval I needed was my own. And I'd given that to myself the moment I decided my dreams were worth pursuing, no matter who believed in them. That, my friends, was the real story. Not the revenge of proving everyone wrong, but the liberation of no longer needing to prove anything at all.